Good day, and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo, and welcome to day 2 of the Weight Loss Vlog. Today we're going to touch on a subject that might be a little bit delicate. Some people might not like how this is going to make them feel, and some might actually get offended. But I think it's important if we're going to be setting up this community the way that I want, where it's going to be open and honest and very straightforward. I think it's something that we need to actually discuss, and that is the use of the term fat. During this year-long program, I didn't want to sort of compartmentalize people into the people that need to lose a little bit of weight and the people that need to lose a lot of weight. I sort of wanted something that's a little more inclusive, and there are so many euphemisms for fat that people use as like sort of a vain attempt to avoid hurting anyone's feelings, that everything would just sort of get lost. So I just sort of wanted to have one term that we can all accept. And for me, anyway, I find that just calling it what it is, just fat, seems to be the best option. I'm fat. That's why I started this. You're fat. This is why you're looking at this. And the people that are going to be coming in as this goes along, people that are in the community that you'll be able to talk with back and forth, they're fat. And whether you're at the one end of the spectrum where you're considered, plus size or mildly overweight, to where you are obese or morbidly obese, or whatever's beyond that, epically obese, which sounds actually pretty good, in part, that this is going to include everybody so that we can all sort of be under the same tent. And of course, now I'm picturing myself wearing a tent so that we can all be under the same group and, sort of follow along with each other. There are a lot of euphemisms, and I'm sure you've heard them just as much as I have, that people use to avoid calling someone fat, like curvy or chunky or voluptuous or husky. Just there are so many, and the odd thing is that anytime anyone uses it, it immediately triggers in your head just the word fat, one way or the other. And usually that's done to our face because they're trying to think of a nice way of going, I think they know they're fat, but I don't want to say anything. So they'll try to conceal it in like a backhanded compliment or something like that. But in reality, when we are there, if they're talking to someone else, and maybe not in a malicious way, but no one ever says, during conversation, oh, you're a full-figured person. They just point and say, no, it's that fat guy over there. That's who they're talking about. So I sort of wanted to use that term as not really an acceptable term, but as something that, is something usable that we can all use. It's very simple. Everyone knows what it means, and it's sort of an all-encompassing term as well. So now that's not to say that it's sort of a fat acceptance thing. I'm going to go into a little more depth than that at some later date, but it's not to accept the fact that we're fat. We don't like it. That's why we're doing this. We don't feel good. We don't look good. We don't, emotionally feel good and physically feel good. It's psychologically draining at times. So it's not a matter of saying, no, I'm going to accept me for who I am. It's a matter of saying I need to accept that I have an issue, and that is that I'm fat and I need to change it. So that's what we're working on. I'm not quite sure when it became sort of taboo to call someone fat. People still do it, but it's generally frowned upon. And I think it's just because it sort of came into popular usage. When you have a certain term to describe a group of people, then that term is acceptable until it becomes overly popular. And then for some reason, it turns into an offensive term. And then, they change it again. And then once that becomes popular, then that becomes offensive, and they change it again. So, now I suppose overweight is the one that, people generally use, but even that has sort of fallen out of disuse, and that's where we get these other euphemisms like, full-figured or husky or cuddly or whatever the weird shit is that they call us. So I just sort of wanted to, scrape all that away, and because again, I want this to be a very open and honest community that we have, and I don't think we can do that if we continue to lie to ourselves. I mean, we've spent years looking in the mirror and going, not so bad, when deep down, we know how bad it is. We don't like how we look. For some of us, that's the reason why we eat, oddly enough. But, we know what the problem is. It's just getting to that point where we can stop lying to ourselves and, start making that change. And the only way to do that is to really accept responsibility for it. And I think this is part of it, is being able to use the term fat without feeling horrible. We could go the other way and do the clinical thing, but, if I'm constantly using the term obese, we know what the problem is, and taking that little dig every single time is not going to help things. For some of you, the term fat might feel just as bad, but you can take it any way that you want. But there are fat cells in our body that we need to get rid of. So I figure it's pretty much the best term. So, I don't want us to get to a stage where we're starting this out by continuing to lie to ourselves. That's what leads us to situations where we go, I've had a good week, I can cheat this one day, because, again, we think, well, it'll sort of make up for it the next week. Or when you get discouraged to a point and you're like, oh, the hell, that doesn't matter anyway. And it's those little bits of self-deception that have contributed to where we are today. So I want to sort of nip that in the bud, get rid of it, and get us to where we need to be. So I know it's sort of a little heavy to do on day 2, but these are things that we do need to address. And some of you are going to agree with me, some of you are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. Let me know either way. Because I want that to be part of this community, is that you can talk back and forth without, creating, arguments and fighting, but to be able to talk and have a meaningful discussion as to why you prefer that term or why you think it's a horrible term, whatever the reason is. For me, I think it's just more of sort of an all-encompassing and a fairly clinical term that we can use that will, make things easier when we're discussing things. So yesterday you started out your tracking. Hopefully you'll stick with that today. Again, don't worry about the numbers or anything like that. Just want you to get into the routine of tracking everything that you eat. And again, like I said, next week we'll start tweaking and fiddling around with the numbers and stuff like that. But thank you again for watching this today. If you liked it, poke the like button for me. It'll help get the word out, and hopefully get some more people in here that we can talk with. And in the meantime, stay warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.